Hey, what's going on guys? This is Chounji Akuma, and today I wanted to show you how to clear Veteran Stormtalon's Lair. This place can be a bit of a pain, but with this guide, you'll be able to clear it no problem. Alright, so first things first. This dungeon is going to require a lot of CC for both trash pulls and boss fights, so I highly recommend everyone brings at least 2 and keeps them on their LAS for the duration of this dungeon. Secondly, there are a few pulls that require a cleanse, so healers, try to fit 1 on your LAS, otherwise just switch to it for these few fights. And finally, to obtain a silver medal for this dungeon, you are going to need to complete all optional quests, as well as beat the final boss in 30 minutes or less. So the dungeon starts off pretty easy with a large group of enemies that you can pull all at once and just AoE down. The next group of mobs will require you to time your CC to stop them from healing to full HP. I recommend breaking your CCers into groups so that you don't all CC at the same time. If you do, this will cause you to be unable to stop the next cast of heal and make this fight way longer than necessary. The mob you're CCing in this group is the Thundercall Shaman, and the spell you're looking for is Rejuvenate. The Shaman has 1 interrupt armor, so you shouldn't need too many people to stop this cast. The following group is a tank and spank, so avoid their telegraphs and kill them quickly. Next up is another Thundercall Shaman group. Just pull this group around the corner so that the patrol does not aggro you while you finish them off. After this, kill the tank and spank group once again and prepare for the final pull before the boss. This is the Thundercall Stormweaver, and it will require you to cleanse a dot and stun a spell known as Conduction. Conduction will stun a target and hit multiple times with lightning for approximately 7,000 damage every tick. If you do not CC this, the player affected will more than likely die, so be on your toes. This is what the dot looks like on your debuff bar, and should be cleansed immediately because it ticks for 2,000 damage every second and it stacks. Meaning if you get too many of these dots on you, you will begin to take up to 12,000 damage a second, and this will pretty much wipe your party. After you kill the Stormweaver, it's finally time for the first boss, Bladewind the Invoker. This is a pretty easy fight, but will require you to move around a ton. As you can see, the boss is in the middle of the room and has 4 Thundercall channelers surrounding him. These channelers are currently immune to damage in phase 1, so ignore them and only focus the boss. As soon as you pull the boss, however, they will immediately begin casting an AoE around them and will hit for approximately 7,000 damage, so avoid this at all costs. Thankfully, only one of them at a time casts this, so keep an eye out for which one is casting the telegraph. This AoE will occur approximately every 4 to 6 seconds. Not only will the channelers be casting spells during phase 1, but so will the boss. The one spell you need to be aware of that the boss casts is called Thundercross. This is a very obvious spell because it's an enormous cross-shaped telegraph that will cover part of the room. You can either stun the boss while he casts this, or simply just move out of telegraph. Continue to avoid these 2 mechanics, and once the boss reaches approximately 66% HP, he will explode and disarm your entire party. This indicates start of phase 2. During this phase, the Thundercall channelers will still be immune to damage, but will no longer produce an AoE. On the other hand, the boss will no longer need to be tanked and he'll be immune to damage. But he'll still cast Thundercross as well as a new ability, Lightning Strike. This spell will target a single person in your group. This will cause a small telegraph to show up beneath them and follow them around. Although, after a few seconds, the telegraph will stick to the ground and moments later will be struck by lightning. You will need to make sure you drop this telegraph on top of one of the channelers so you can finally break their immunity to damage and kill them one by one. Each lightning strike you drop on a channeler will stun them, as well as do a large amount of damage to them. After each channeler is killed, a static wisp will spawn. These wisps move in a circular pattern around the boss room and will stun anything in its path, as well as do approximately 2,000 damage to it. This can be extremely dangerous, especially if you get stunned inside of a telegraph, so avoid these like the plague. Once you kill all channelers, phase 3 will begin, and the boss's immunity to damage will no longer exist. Immediately have the tank grab this boss. During phase 3, the boss will continue to cast lightning strikes and gain a new ability known as Electrostatic Pulse. This ability will cover the entire room in a telegraph and will do approximately 23,000 damage to anyone hit and knock them back and down. However, there are 2 ways to avoid this damage. The easiest way is to simply stun the boss while he casts, or you can move into the small safe zones located around the room. But be aware, during this entire phase, the static wisp will be circling the room, so be very careful. Keep avoiding all these mechanics, and eventually, the boss will die. The next room only has 1 new creature, the Skyboom Tempest. This guy is super annoying and charges around a lot. The main ability you just need to interrupt is Manifest Cyclone. Once you clear a path through this room, you will encounter the second boss, Aethros. Make sure everyone is past the entrance before you attack the boss or you'll lock someone out of this fight. Phase 1 Aethros is extremely easy. All you have to worry about is dodging a very large AoE that he places under every player known as Torrent. If you are hit by this, you will more than likely instantly die. In my experience, this hits me for approximately 26,000 damage or more. At about 80%, Aethros will begin to dissipate. This will cause Aethros to disappear and 3 gusts of Aethros to take his place. When he does this, run to the back of the boss room and have your tank pick up these gusts. The reason you're in the back is because these little guys will cast a small telegraph known as Static Shock below one of your party members, and once the cast is finished, that party member will drop the telegraph on the ground. This telegraph will last for the remainder of this fight, so make sure to drop it near the back of the room or on the sides of the room so you don't have to avoid them once Aethros comes back. As soon as you kill these 3 gusts, phase 2 will begin and Aethros will reappear, throwing the entire party to the entrance of this room. At this point, he will begin channeling lightning bolts that will hit you for approximately 15,000 damage, so avoid these the best you can. Not only will Aethros cast lightning bolts, but the tornadoes you saw will start moving back and forth across the room. If you're hit by one of these tornadoes, you will take approximately 11,000 damage and be thrown into the air. Your party needs to run as fast as they can to Aethros and CC him to stop him from casting these lightning bolts. At this point, the tornadoes will stop moving back and forth as well. Pro tip. If you have a spellslinger in your group, they can void slip right as the final gust of Aethros dies to avoid being thrown to the entrance of this room. They can then immediately CC Aethros and stop him from casting lightning bolts. This is super useful and will make this fight a lot easier. Quick tip. Randomly throughout the fight, Aethros will teleport away from the party for no good reason. Don't freak out and don't start chasing him. Just simply wait and he'll return to you in due time. After you stop him from casting lightning bolts, it's pretty much the same as phase 1, but now he'll use Torrent and lightning bolts until he dissipates for a second time at approximately 33% HP. Finish off the 3 adds like last time, and make sure to drop the static shocks properly, and you'll enter phase 3 by being thrown directly back to the entrance once again. This phase is the same as phase 2, but this time the tornadoes will not stop moving once you CC Aethros. Continue to avoid the torrents, lightning bolts, tornadoes, and this victory will be yours. From this room, you have 2 choices. Either continue forward and fight more trash pulls as well as an optional boss, or you can take the secret path route that will instantly get you to the last boss. Here's how you use the secret route. I find it a lot easier to get up onto one of these roofs if you use a movement skill like Leap or Projected Spirits, but you can get up here just by double jumping as well. Once you're on the roof, run and jump off the side so that you land on the ledge to the right. Continue up and you'll reach Stormwind, the final boss. This boss is pretty simple once you get his mechanics down, but with an unorganized group, this will be a nightmare. Alright, so you're going to need a few things for this fight. At least 5 CCs between your entire party, your class Stunbreaker, and as much damage as you can bring to the table. Once your tank pulls, make sure you face Stormtalon away from the party because he has a frontal cone AoE that will pretty much one-shot anyone but the tank. Also, make sure to stand on either side of Stormtalon to make this fight a lot easier. Keep attacking Stormtalon until he does one of 2 things. Depending on your DPS, Stormtalon will either cast Static Charger, which will place a small telegraph on the ground, stun anyone inside of it, give Stormtalon a stacking damage buff, and then he'll follow up with nameless small telegraphs that will be dropped below players and stay on the ground until you get Stormtalon to about 85%, in which case he'll explode, knocking everyone back and onto the ground. Or, if your DPS is high enough, you'll push him directly to the exploding phase. Once you get knocked back, do not use your Stunbreaker until you're actually on the ground, or it will not work and you'll still be stunned. As soon as you are not stunned, run at a slant towards the boss and CC him immediately, because he'll be channeling lightning bolts which will land directly in front of you. If you're hit by one of these, you'll take approximately 12,000 damage. Not only that, but the outside of the room will have a large telegraph that will move towards the boss. If this reaches the boss, he will explode, killing your entire party, unless you CC Stormtalon. After your CC wears off of Stormtalon, he will begin attacking the tank, and then use Static Charger, followed by this nameless telegraph. At this point, I highly suggest having the tank kite Stormtalon around either clockwise or counterclockwise so that you can drop all the telegraphs around the outside of the room and not on top of each other. All this will either repeat or depend on the DPS. Stormtalon may use a new ability called Unleash the Storm. This will choose one player for the Eye of the Storm. This is the only safe zone in the entire room, so everyone needs to get to that player. The player chosen will be disoriented, so make sure they choose one direction and keep moving that way slowly, or lightning bolt Stormtalon is casting on that disoriented player will kill them. Also, if you are not by this player, you will take approximately 10,000 damage a tick from the storm around and die. A quick tip for this is if you put on an interrupt armor before he explodes, you will not get knocked back. This repeats until you kill Stormtalon or he gets to 5 static charges. At 5 static charges, you cannot escape his lightning bolts anymore and you will wipe within seconds. Well guys, I hope this helps. I know I went into a lot of detail, but if you have any questions or other sweet tricks to share, feel free to comment in the comment section below and I'll respond as soon as possible. As always guys, I'll see you next time.